All right. We are back on, and what we had pending, we had voted against repeal. And so we are back to the motion to approve draft one. And I don't think we had anything else on the floor yet, correct? We've got, who do we have up? We got Member Straight over there. Okay, Member Straight's first.
Okay.
Okay, yes, sir.
Sorry. Hold on. There you go.
I move that we divide.
Divide what?
Do we divide draft one and debate each point separately?
I'm gonna need more pizza.
By each point, are we saying each line of
Well, we have it.
draft one?
We have it. I believe we have it ready.
A division? Okay, well, let's see what it is then.
Can I make a sub right now? Is the sub?
No, we got to see what this is and see if it has a second, and then if somebody
We can talk
thinks
to
they
it.
have something else, then. But let's frame it up, and so staff's prepared to see what the division is. Sorry. I don't want to rush you. I just want to know if we should be waiting. Are we putting things up on what the division is?
So when we had it put together, when we turned them in, we asked that they be informed where it was divided, so where that could be a possibility.
What?
So is that
Unclear.
not? Well, if I get a second, then we could. Then I could speak to it, and we could. So
Normally we tee it up. I'm just trying to see if we know what the division is, and I guess if the second doesn't care much, they trust you, then they can second. But I think before we get into discussion, we probably want to know what the division is. If it's by each sub, topic, sub A, sub B, or yeah, Member Straight moved to divide. We're just looking to see what the division is. I think staff are helping to frame it up.
I'm wondering if it's
Member
every
Straight
change
said each
in the
point, each
rule.
section.
Okay, so I
I think
could
staff
speak
is
to it.
helping us.
I could speak to the intent of that,
We just need a second and know what it is.
and we
before
did
speak
have a
to it.
second.
Did we?
Seconded.
Got rain? Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
So my
Member
intent
Straight.
is not to complicate it. My intent is to move it forward in a way that will set a pattern to follow from here on out in making some changes, because I don't want to just look at it globally. I want people to be able to express their thoughts on each individual item. And maybe I apologize to staff. Perhaps it wasn't as clear as I thought it had been made, so my apologies. So maybe
So,
that's a bad idea.
Well, I guess the options are, if the motion is on the floor, people could single out those elements that they might want to amend.
Let's do that.
If we,
That'll
okay.
make it easier.
okay. I'm not trying to drive it either way, just setting out options, but,
So I think the intent is met by that.
okay.
And if people want to just move forward and vote on it, then we can. But if people want to take out, that's always an option for anyone, right? So I'm not changing anything. So could I get out of it by just saying, I withdraw.
Okay. But, I mean, good point. There, any number of these members can bring. I guess the
Right.
difference is if we leave it as is, then if somebody doesn't single it out, we don't have to vote it up or down, and we'll just, but yeah.
And
Okay.
and I'm fine with whatever. I just was trying to create an open feeling about it. So that's my intent, and we'll move on.
Got it. Okay. Well, thank you. We have then, the opportunity for anybody to pick any part and propose an amendment Sorry? It was withdrawn before we actually,
His motion was a substitute motion to Member Davis's motion. So we have a motion on the table? Right, so why are we not just
okay.
voting on that motion?
well, we put it out for discussion. We just hadn't gotten to the vote yet.
Okay,
We voted down repeal, and then Member Davis's motion was
and
on
then Brent kind
the
of
floor for discussion.
waffled.
Okay, but that's been withdrawn, so it's back open. So just for clarity, draft one, motion to approve draft one is on the floor, open to debate. Any or all elements. Anybody want to speak to that? Vice Chair Hart.
I'd like us to make a substitute motion.
That's in order.
Okay. Hold on to your seats. I move that we postpone to a special meeting. We create a rule around educational freedom. Tomorrow in each committee, a committee member will be nominated for a writing committee to prepare a draft rule tightly aligned to 427, which is titled Educational Freedom.
Does that cover it? Okay.
Well,
I can't speak to it, so.
Is there a second? It's been seconded. Back to you, the
Okay.
maker of the motion.
Obviously, it's no secret that I don't think that leaving a void, a vacuum, will solve any sort of issue. It also leaves our practitioners in complete limbo as to what to do and what not to do. If we're unhappy with 328 because a law has been passed in the meantime, then we have a responsibility to write a rule for guidelines. In my view, we have a responsibility to write a rule around the laws that exist right now. So if I'm not comfortable having no rule, so I'm not willing to go to a vacuum. So this is what I have to offer.
I have a question. Would this then, other rule be intended to replace 328 or go alongside it? Does this have an effect on what's
don't
been proposed on
Think
328?
that I can put it all in one motion because I think that's actually two different actions. But if someone wants to amend it or someone wants to say something different, I think that would obviously be the intent because 328 was, the resolution that 328 was based on was replaced with 427. So it doesn't make sense to keep a resolution, a rule that is based on something that's been replaced. I mean, you don't have to vote for it. I'm not saying you, but I'm just saying it's,
All right, yeah, I get it. I just wanted
I just
personal
don't know.
clarity.
I don't think
Any
I
other-
can add that, like.
No,
that
you're
would-
right. I'm thinking more of a question of intent or, next steps or whatever. Member Davis is first and then Member Laird?
Member Lear, I think, is first.
I can't support this motion for several reasons. First of all, I don't agree with some of your comments, Member Hart. I agreed with some of your earlier ones. I don't think there's anything about replacing 427 with 109. The resolution that's apples and oranges for one thing. One came from legislature, one came from the board as the leader of public education, meaning 328 came from the board. 427 comes from the legislature with a different perspective and different expertise. So I don't deny that we have to be consistent with the legislature, but we don't need to say we've been supplanted or usurped or replaced. I feel like we still
Can I reply?
need to have I feel like we still need a rule that speaks from the board, the education leader of the state.
And Oh.
And I wasn't quite done, but I would appreciate, I mean, if you want to respond. So I don't agree with some of your statements about R27328. I also don't like the idea of choosing one person from every committee. I think I would rather put all the names in a hat and choose a few people, so that there's a more objective way to do that. I can, but I'm saying I think that's not that's not a way I'd choose to establish a writing committee, or see who wants to volunteer and who has the time for it, and maybe we'd get a reasonable number of people. So right now, I'm just speaking against this altogether. Oh, the third thing is educational freedom is very misleading in K-12. We don't have educational freedom. Teachers are constrained by the curriculum chosen by their LEA. We don't, it's too close for my taste to academic freedom, which is more true of higher ed. And I think we would give a false sense, even if the meaning is, well, we didn't mean that kind of freedom, we meant this kind of freedom. So I don't like the title either. If that was just a placeholder, that's great. But I think it would be misleading if you're the one that's always in favor of bringing clarity to practitioners.
Yep.
Don't confuse them by saying you really have a lot of freedom in education. They don't. So anyway, those are my concerns. I don't have I'm really just opposed to the motion. I'd rather vote on draft one, see where we come down, and then let somebody else who has a better draft or different ideas bring it forth. I think draft one is an excellent compromise.
Okay, member,
Can I?
oh, yes, respond.
My whole point is that I want rules that are very tightly aligned with what's in law for clarity for our practitioners. I also, I really, how we created a committee, that was just the first thing that came to mind. That's not my point is that my problem is that we are not, you're right, we wrote 328, but we wrote it because the legislature said you will write a rule. And in the meantime, since then, we now have 427, and trying to keep clarity in that space is what's important to me, as I expressed. Now, the details I'm fine with, and obviously it's just an idea. It doesn't have to go anywhere.
Chair, can I make one responsive comment?
Sure.
Before, another kind of difference of opinion I have in your reasons for doing this is I do not believe, and the attorneys in our office do not believe that this draft one or even the earlier rule was inconsistent with 427. I don't know whose advice people are taking, but the people that represent me as legal counsel have said there is no difference. There is no conflict, let me put it that way, not difference. So I don't agree with one of your premises, which is probably one of your constructs that I've forgotten, Christina. Or somebody else's that,
We should get a chart
yes, I
Put it
need to be more clear.
on the board.
Well, they're very, but they're
That might be
a
a
matter of opinion, by the way. But anyway,
Yeah.
I don't,
We lawyers
so I
can
don't agree
argue
with that.
about anything, including the appropriateness of our arguments and such. Okay, what's that? Yes.
Just a point of information, this is the second time Board Member Lear has referenced that our legal staff has come out with some kind of analysis that there is no conflict. If I'd like to see that, I have not been provided a copy of any legal analysis from our legal team. So if it exists, that's twice now it's been said, I'd like to have a copy. And if anyone at this table has it, just email it to me. But if not, who do I make that request to? Oh, that's no legal. Okay, I understand. Okay, thank you. Got it. Thank you.
Okay.
that's yeah.
Is that just for some clarity? Is it, what's the document we're talking about that says there's no conflict? Can you just tell us on the record? Okay. And was this including council or was this?
I thought she said she consulted with Michelle, and I'm not sure about Ashley.
So somewhere, is this in backup? Is that what we said?
No,
Or is this the while
somebody
back?
said it was.
Okay, it's back in the inbox. I get that. I
From a
didn't see
couple
it in
of
the.
months ago.
Okay. I don't think it's in backup, but it's in our inboxes back there. Got it. Okay. I don't want to argue about it. I just want clarity for the record and for our board members that might want to access it. So search your emails for a memo from Deputy Stallings if you'd like to see the document. All right. Who's next here? Member Davis.
I'm going to speak against the motion because when we did this with that RFP thing, I swore I would never, ever, ever support doing that again. Voting for someone off the committee and they make a little committee and they do a thing. I mean, it was frustrating. And we already have a process in place. Today, we can decide to keep our current 328 or vote for the new draft, and that one of those two will stand in the interim, and then 3 board members or more can put a little working group together and come up with an alternate and request of board leadership to put it on the agenda. This is our process. This is what we do. When, I hate to bring up PTSD from the science standards because people yelled at me from both sides on this thing. But when the vote was an 8-7 vote, which is stinky, board member Earl called and talked with me and member Wood and member Reel. And the four of us got together and agreed to work together and spend a lot of time working on some amendments that we felt would be appropriate. And that is our process. We requested they go back on the agenda. Leadership assigned it. We had the discussion. So I really feel like we need to follow our process, personally.
Okay. Other comments? Member Straight?
And maybe that's
Am I
because
in
I
the
spent
right
a
order?
lot of time working on draft 1 already. And we did that of our own volition. And others can do it too.
Member Straight?
Yes.
Or amend today.
Yes, I just want to acknowledge what I see as the intent of this. I think the processes are in place, but I think we have to give some recognition to the intent of what's trying to take place there. So thank you.
Thank you, Member Straight. Vice Chair Earl?
Yeah, I think postponing is part of the process. If the board chooses to postpone, whether or not it's exactly like this or not, but to postpone on action with this is part of the process, and it can be, that can be what the board chooses to do. Now, whether or not if we do a committee or whatever, that's, maybe it's just people work together and bring their, yeah. So, okay, I'll amend it to take out during the committee. Yeah. Okay, I would amend to, that the board, to strike it and have the board postpone to a special meeting. And then people can bring their things forward. So I'm not prepared to debate all night on 328. So,
All right. Do we have an amendment then? Is that friendly? And is there any objection from the body? I think it was friendly.
Yep. Well,
Wasn't this your motion?
yeah, but I think it should be,
vote on it separate.
I think it should be voted on because that's the proper process.
What should be?
That
Amend it.
to amend it to remove the rest of it.
Okay. I mean, if it's friendly, we can do it that way. Either one is appropriate process,
There's no
but
such thing as friendly amendments.
that is. There are.
Oh,
If
okay,
no one
have
ob-
we changed our position? Then fine.
We changed it in August.
Is it a day that ends in Y?
Okay,
Yeah. we have.
okay, if it's.
No, we
if it's-
researched it. We found out there is no friendly amendment.
Okay,
but an
I
amendment-
missed that memo too.
Okay. Well, hold
So-
on. Just let me.
Okay.
If it is considered friendly, if the maker doesn't object, accepts it, and nobody from the body objects.
Okay.
That was what we
All right, it's friendly.
were advised. Unless there's an objection. Any objection from the body? Hearing none? Okay, that's adopted. So, we just have this then, correct? That was the, okay. All right, discussion of that motion, Member Davis?
Turn it on.
Oh, I'm sorry. Finger problem.
Member Davis,
Legislative action.
we believe.
Right.
I'm going to take a
Member Davis.
30-second liberty and say when I was a brand new board member and we had to right away start up in those meetings at the Capitol, I was sitting there and Chair Huntsman was saying something that was wrong and I knew it was wrong. And I was in my chair going, oh my gosh, I'm brand new. I've got to correct the chair. I don't want to say anything, but I have to because what he's saying isn't right. And so I sheepishly, it was like, listen, I think it's this, this, and this, and this. And he says, no, it's not. It's this, this, and this. Well, someone from the body at the Capitol came up to the witness stand and said, no, it's this, this, and this, and this. And I don't know what happened, but my Siri sounds like an English butler. Because Chair Huntsman said, well, I stand corrected. And my phone said, just as I expected, like in this really snooty voice. And I was literally wanted to crawl under my desk. I was mortified. Anyway, that just reminded me of that early moment. I mean, look, I would just, the only reason I'm voting not to postpone is because I really would like to see a vote on draft 1 happen today. So we have something in the interim, because again, we can ask the chairs, whoever 3 people, when they get their document finished, can ask the chairs to put it on an agenda and bring it back to replace either draft 1 or the other one. I get it if it won't pass, but I'd really like an opportunity to see if we can replace what we currently have with draft 1 right now. So at least we have the language of 427 in it, which is the biggest addition to change to this, what we already have. So that's why I'm going to vote no to postpone.
Okay, Vice Chair Earl?
Yeah, we have other things on the agenda too. I think we're gonna, as we go down through this, we're gonna be amending, and it's not gonna be clean work. That's my concern. The other thing is, I mean, I think there's a number of items on here we should have probably indicated that we might go over to tomorrow, like the math standards. It's gonna have to be on another day. It's not, we're not gonna get to it. We have people that, need to be there. So what I'm saying is we're probably going to have a special meeting anyways for a couple other items we're not going to be able to get to today and haven't been able to be cited for tomorrow. So I think this is a wise decision. Work with people. Otherwise, I think we'll be here for another hours before we get to the other stuff too. So.
And then when we come back to the next meeting, we start on
It starts where we end. Yeah.
So that
Am I
motion's
right in
still on
saying
the
that?
floor?
So yeah, draft 1 would be on the floor. I think
We start where
A,
we
G,
end,
L's-
if I
is
We'd have to
on.
vote for that first unless someone amended it. We have
For
to
what
vote yes or
first?
no on that first, or amend it.
Member Hart's motion?
That's correct.
No, when we come back to the next meeting.
We would start where we end. Wherever we're at is where we start.
Okay, any further discussion of that motion? If not, let us vote. The motion is a substitute motion that the board postpone to a special meeting. Okay, let's see. We got one more. One more. Okay, that motion fails by a vote of 8 opposed, 6 in favor, and 1 abstention. The yes votes are Member Carey, Chair Moss, Member Green, Member Bogus, Vice Chair Hart, and Vice Chair Earl, with abstention being Member Hymas. Okay, so that fails, and we are back to draft 1. further discussion to that motion? I see none, so we can tee up a vote on draft 1.
I'd like to make an amendment.
Okay?
We'll be here all night, but, so, no, it's not prepared for it, so here we go. Give me just a second to pull up draft 1. I would strike in lines 40 through 67. I would strike all the, you have to do this professional development, this professional development, this professional development, this professional development. So
What are the lines again?
I'm going off the draft 1. Is that not what we're working off of?
Yes. What were the line numbers?
40
Sorry.
through 67. Yep.
Okay. This is 328-3.
Yeah. Yeah, huh? Kind of, except for we have the professional learning provided by an LEA shall, no, if we would leave it.
Do we have strike lines 40 to 60? Okay, we got everything. Sorry, thought we were waiting.
Other than that, actually, I'm fine with
So
going
strike
through
all
and
of
we
lines
can
40 to
edit later if we need
67.
to.
Did we get a second?
Okay, we have a second discussion to the motion. Member Earl? Or I'm sorry, Member Lear. Or were you up too?
Go ahead.
I just,
Yeah, I just think
Yeah,
that
I'm
our
sorry.
districts can decide what that professional learning looks like. This has the components that tell what it has to entail. It talks about a rubric. It talks about going back to being approved for any professional development. And then it talks about curriculum in the classroom. And then I don't know if it does the line, yeah, anyways. So I just, it allows the freedom for districts to do the type of professional development they need to do instead of the mandating, you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this. So I would move that.
okay. Member Lear, what's the lineup here?
Lear, Bogus, Carey, Wood.
Lear, Vargas, Carey, and Wood.
I'll oppose this motion. I think this is what so many members often ask for, is that let's say something positive to LEAs, that something, what should happen, don't state things in the negative, which then is the second part of this, where the language comes from 427, beginning on line 74. No, I'm sorry, I lied. That's also stuff that's crossed out so that it can be replaced by the language from 427 that's on line 84. So that's the improvement, I feel like, to draft 1 that brings it more closely aligned with 427. So I think leaving that information at the beginning is very helpful for LEAs. And as I've told you, the districts I represent have already used that in guiding their own professional development. So I would make a substitute motion, having spoken to it first, that that we leave the language as is, except to say, may include instruction in on line 42. So that we can give guidance, as is the role of a state board of education, to LEAs.
Is there a second to that motion? Okay, it's been moved and seconded. The motion to amend, or is this a motion to substitute?
I don't
think
know
it's
what
a
you call it.
substitute.
There's only changing the one word, but it's putting back in all the things that Member Earl moved to take out.
I think that's a substitute. I want to make sure, because the way we characterize it matters. Okay, there's, the refs saying yes, so that is on the body, huh? All right, that's on the floor. Motion then is to restore the language that was removed and instead have the word may include instruction in. Any discussion of that motion? Member Bogus? Member Carey?
I would speak against the motion, and I would favor Member Earl's motion. But I want to make it a motion.
Okay, Member Carey.
Oh, I'm just making a separate motion.
Okay, Member Straight.
Oh, okay, I was confused, I apologize, I take back, I mean, I'm not saying I take back my comment.
All right, so the motion is to restore all the restore the items for training that were deleted, but put in the word may in relation to those items.
Can I?
Member Vice Chair Earl.
Yeah, I just want to speak to it. When we say that all the districts are doing it, the reason why all the districts are doing it is because we said you have to do this. This has been a shall for 3 years. So the idea that we're taking something away from them, they can do professional development as long as it falls in this. But if you say you're taking away certain things, well, yeah, because they had to do those. We told them they had to do them. So, you know, their choice now to be able to decide on that.
Okay, Member Hymas.
Yeah, I'll just speak against the motion, so that we can hopefully get back to Member Earl's. When we go from shall to may, and I get that, usually that's like, yes, that's a no-brainer. But here, again, we're given these lists of things that they may do. If we're trying to give local control and give authority to our LEAs, then let's let them do it. Let's remove this part and let them teach those things. Let them train on those things.
Thank you, Member Hymas. I will just say, having spent a number of months in the Reports and Requirements Task Force, we've recently addressed training at the request of the field, and one of their main requests was that we thin out the training that we've talked about this a little bit here. We have a different proposal that came out of that group, but I think, you know, LEAs can decide what to do as long as they don't do the wrong thing. And Vice Chair Earl's amendment would leave in, you can't do this, and then give them the freedom to adapt and adjust. And we spoke about this earlier, but if they want to, you know, customize their training in a way that they think best suits the kids that need it the most, then they can do that. And they'll have that flexibility as long as they don't run afoul of law. So I'm in favor. Member Davis?
I was speaking, are you done speaking?
Yep. It's all yours.
I would support the language changing, in line 42, replacing shall with may. I think it gives flexibility to the LEAs, but ironically, I mean, we have been meeting in a task force to reduce training, but ironically, all of our districts have been asking us to keep these requirements. So, in an interesting twist of events. So I would support Member Lear's amendment and take the mandate away, but leave the opportunity for them to teach about a safe and respectful workplace, along with teaching that they can't teach provisions of 427. Thanks.
Member Hymus.
That jumps over Lear.
Oh, okay. Help me out here. Sorry, Member Lear.
We, and
Sorry.
I just, something else occurred to me. I think we can't avoid leaving in the shall nots. So we can't avoid the training. The shall nots in from 427. They're on, starting on line, starting on line 84, the shall nots from HB 427. So, well, they're prohibitions. You can characterize it how you want, but they're prohibitions. You can't teach about this and you can't teach about that. So somehow I think it behooves the board to tell LEAs what they cannot do that is found in 427, that was the concern of this body earlier, many members of this body, that the rule was not aligned with the law. So now we've, in draft 1, aligned it with the law. So reminding LEAs about the prohibitions from 427 is a necessary training piece anyway. I feel if we're showing leadership as a local, or not over, but in conjunction with local school boards. So I think adding the positive, which many of you advocate for in many rules, don't just tell them what they can't do, tell them what they might do, give them ideas. And I think leaving these as mays does just that, but it doesn't mandate that if local districts, LEAs have other ideas, they can also use those.
Okay, Member Hymus.
Yeah, just briefly, I don't want to spend too much more time on this, but when we put in May and then have this list of things, who's accountable if that training doesn't happen? If we say, hey, we want you should train on these, and then the LEA doesn't say it, and then somebody else gets on it and says, well, it's in the rule. I support the idea of saying, look, you know what you need to do, you know what you need to train on, do what's best for you and your community, and get the job done, rather than saying, well, you may, and then we're going to go through this list of things that you should train on.
Thank you, Member Hymus. All right. I don't see any other lights, so the motion is to restore the list of statements about what training can be and replace shall with may. Right? So, next Member Lear's substitute. Board leaving the language in lines 40 to 67, but strike shall in line 42 and replace with may. Seeing no other lights, we are open for voting. Me, voting is concluded. The motion fails 7-8. The yes votes are Member Wood, Member Reel, Member Lear, Member Straight, Member Davis, Member Booth, and Member Norton. Okay, that brings us back to Member Vice Chair Earl's motion, which is to strike lines 40 through 67. We've discussed that. Unless there are final comments, let's vote. Sorry.
Save the last one.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
I opened it and saw no lights.
I mean,
Well, come on.
I would
now.
just vote.
I
I would
opened and
just
asked for
speak
lights.
against it because it just removes all the positive pieces that these parents have been asking us for.
Okay, we're still open then, Member Reel.
Thanks. I'd also speak against this because I think that one of the most important pieces of 328 is that it helps educators navigate difficult conversations in the classroom and understand how to implement a lot of the pieces of the rule. And even including 427. The training helps them understand how 427 works, especially with this draft one, and how to navigate that in the classroom, because our educators are scared to death to say the wrong things. They're scared to death to have conversations. We're doing a huge disservice to our students by implementing all of this legislation that is our role to do, but not giving our teachers any tools to understand how to appropriately handle these conversations in our classrooms. So I'd speak against this as well.
Can I-
Okay, Vice Chair Earl.
This does not limit the tools. Once again, just like the law does not limit it, it says any professional development you do. Our districts, I'm competent that they can figure out what they need to do. They know their teachers, they know their kids, they know the community they're in. It's going to be different for each community. To say, well, if you don't tell us what to do, then we won't know what to do. I don't agree with that. I think we've got very smart, competent people in our districts, and I think they know how to do this. So I think they can figure it out. A lot of them may be using some training they have currently. I don't think we have to say, okay, you have to do, I'm just giving you a whole list of ideas. If so, then we got to keep adding to the list of ideas, because I got maybe 5 ideas to add to it, and I just don't think that's the direction to go.
Sure. Yeah, Member Earl.
I wholeheartedly agree with you that I feel like they are competent and have the tools, and I would love them, and I appreciate that they can be local about the training that they do. And so I agree with you wholeheartedly. I don't believe that that is the environment in which we live in when we are getting more and more legislation that is dictating what they can and cannot say in their classrooms. And if we can give them any guidance and extra training to make sure that they're following the law, they're handling their conversations in their classroom appropriately, I think that's only helping them. And so I agree with you, but I still think it's important to have that in the rule because it gives that guidance.
Sorry, Member Earl. Okay, Member Lear. Oh, Member Straight.
Yes, thank you. So, as I look down through this list, it includes Portrait of a Graduate as being stricken. I think that's a mistake in that if you go to section 53G-10-204, in the discussion of civic and character education, if you go down to section 3, it includes such things as, through an integrated curriculum, students shall be taught in connection, not separately, with regular schoolwork, honesty, integrity, morality, civility, duty, honor, service, and obedience to law. That was codified in 2022, and I think we sometimes forget about that section. So I think for alignment with Utah Code, I think that section is very important. Also, in regards to that, I never heard any complaints about this section from those that we discussed this rule with, and we did so in quite detail.
Okay, thank you, Member Lear.
Remembering that these same very competent, very smart local people supported the rule as it was unanimously, without any dissension. So if they liked a shall, they should love a may. And it would give them still opportunity to make for, to add their own local issues. Additionally, we have some districts who are under investigation, under scrutiny by federal agencies. And those particular districts have suggested that it would be helpful for the state to support what they're doing with requirements. So despite the Requirements and Reports Task Force, sometimes it can bolster a district, an LEA who's having issues with federal agencies, to say the state's having us do this and we're complying.
Okay, thank you, Member Lear. I guess I should just say one other thing we've discussed in that group is the opportunity to collaborate between USBA and USBE on some training and make sure it's targeted. And I think that opportunity exists even if we don't tell them. you know, what that ought to look like. So I'm in favor of pulling and giving them that freedom, but keeping the option if they want to ask us to help them, that we certainly can do that. Seeing no other lights, let us. Oh, I'm sorry. It goes behind that other computer, and
I'm just, I have an amendment. I'm gonna try to start combining these to reduce the number of and then hopefully we go back to a May, but, I move that we, take the language in line 50 and identifying underperforming students in need of support and move that to line 45, fostering a learning environment and workplace that are safe and respectful of all students and educators, and identify underperforming students in need of supports. And then delete lines 49, the rest of lines 49 and 50. Or C. And then I'm going to try to combine some others as well, but we can do that one for now. Say it again. Yes, I wanted the identifying underperforming students in need of supports to be moved to line 45. So 44 would read, fostering a learning environment and workplace that are safe and respectful of all students and educators, and identify underperforming students in need of supports. So they have training on that. That is their responsibility to provide supports for underperforming students. Okay, I'm gonna take out. Instead of Utah Professional Learning Standards. So replace Utah Professional Learning Standards to Utah Professional Teaching Standards. Chair, can I continue my amendment?
Certainly. I'm sorry.
I
thought
don't know
we were all
what, I
just
don't know
waiting.
where we all went, but,
We were sort of waiting for, I think,
Uh,
some language.
and then in line 46, I'd like to replace Utah Professional Learning Standards to Utah Professional Teaching Standards. Because as I'm being told, that is actually what's described in 53G-303. And teaching practices would go with teaching standards, not learning standards.
Okay, is that framed up?
Utah Effective Teaching Standards. In line 46.
Okay, do we have it teamed up? Let's see if that, does that look right? Utah Effective Teaching Standards. I'll follow you.
We can just vote on those for now if you want to, Chair, and
Okay.
then we can bring more as we all are working on them.
Okay, folks, we have an amendment teed up. What? Well, here we are. We have an amendment. Is there a second? Hey, we didn't actually adjourn yet.
Second.
It's been
Seems like there's mass
seconded
confusion
by
right now.
Member Straight. Sorry?
Seems like mass confusion right now.
Yeah. Hey, folks, we still got a few hours or 5. It's been seconded. Discussion of the motion. Motion is on the chart. We got 3 items, I believe, in there. Any discussion of that motion? I see lights, but are you on for this?
We'd have to take
Member
out
Wood?
that code references to the learning standards. So we'd have to take out that code reference in that line because that's for the Utah Professional Learning Standards. Instead, we could reference our teaching practice standards.
Okay. Hey, board members, are you with us? We've got Member Davis making some complicated amendments. Can we all focus on the amendments, por favor? We'll just, they deserve our attention. I know it's getting late. Let's just make sure we got them teed up and then see if we have comments. We got a few lights. Member Bogus, Member Reel? What do you want me to do? Your light's on, so it's entirely up to you.
I'm waiting to make a motion,
Okay, all right. Member Reel, are you in line for this? Okay, any lights on for this amendment? Member Wood? Yes.
Before I vote on something, it says we're deleting the rest of lines 45 through 50, but then it says we're changing words in 46. But if we deleted 46, then we can't replace lines. So can someone fix the motion just so I know what I'm voting on?
Good point. We got some overlap. 45 to 50 includes 46. Are we deleting 46 or changing it?
We're working on it. I think we're almost
I'm
there.
not sure. It might just have to be tracking it on the draft.
And also, can we
Um,
also delete lines 52 and 53?
I'm just not sure, Member Bogus, we can actually put up the rule and stick it in there. If staff have a better way of doing that, that would be great, but normally we don't have. In context of those parts that are amended, is there anything else we can? So Member Davis, is it the intent to delete line 46?
Sorry, the intent, no, is not to delete it, it's to change Utah professional learning standards and code reference to the Utah educator standards, because that aligns with teaching practices.
So that makes sense. The conflict is we have delete the rest of lines 45 to 50, which would include 46. But I think the intent is to change 46. So how would you
No.
like to clarify that?
Yeah, we are deleting lines 49 and 50 up until identifying underperforming students in need of supports, and we had moved that little piece up.
There we go. All
To
right.
45.
45 was meant to be 49. That was the whole mystery.
Okay,
All right. We got her. I think everybody understood that part. It was inconsistent with delete the rest of the lines 45 to 60 or 45 to 50. Unless there are other questions. I think that was the question that Member Wood had. So that's fixed.
do you want me to speak to it briefly?
Ye-
Okay.
Go ahead. Yeah, Member Davis.
Okay. I think in an effort to streamline some of these, and I still think we could change to May on top of this too, but we would take out some of the requirements. We would add the important piece about underperforming students and supports up above, and then delete the other requirements. And then we would, we probably should have from the beginning put teaching standards in, because that's what teachers do and educators do instead of the learning standards. And that just fixes that. And then when I removed the bottom line of acknowledging and respecting differences by looking for the good in everyone, including oneself, it's pretty similar to 54 through 56, where you're looking for what we have in common as humans, and then acknowledging that we have some differences too, and both are great.
Okay, Member Bogus, and then I think Member Wood. Or Member Neal.
So, sir, I guess this is a point of personal privilege as opposed to speaking to the motion. I recall many instances where, when things were not prepared in advance, multiple members of this board got on the hot mic and they literally pontificated their own stupidity. And we bloviate about how we can't do this, we don't have advance notice, we need to see it in context. We do this all the time, every meeting, right? And right now, the room is noisy. Nobody can hear, nobody can think, and we are expected to do good work in that environment. I don't see how this board can produce anything of quality in this moment. We've had a long day, it's been an emotional day, and I think we all need to consider that as we move through this evening. If it is our intention to amend and approve a rule tonight, we need to be moving in a different direction and doing so very quickly. That's all I have to say, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Bogus. Member Davis.
Just point of information, I did come prepared, and I put all of my amendments on yesterday morning. I'm only amending an amendment that surfaced tonight. I just want to make sure it's really clear so the whole public doesn't think I'm coming unprepared with long lists of things. They were all in Wednesday morning at 8 a.m.
All right, thank you. And folks, let's keep it on the policy. I think that's the quickest way to move forward. If we address ourselves to what's teed up, we can get through this and get some good work done. Deputy Norman, did you want to speak to it?
I apologize. At one point in time, just a few minutes ago, you asked if we could be seeing it on the Word document itself, the changes as they're being requested. I'm not sure if you want us to show that or if you would like for us to continue to show it as amendments. And so we could have it working both ways, working side by side and then showing it as needed. But we just needed to hear from you what it is that you were requesting because it wasn't clear.
The request was from Member Bogus. Yeah, did you want to clarify?
If possible, I would just love a link to that live document. I don't need to have any privileges, but if I had a link in front of me and this up here, I could do much better work, ma'am. To the rule in context. Oh, never mind. I would need more than that. Thank you.
Member Real?
And I would
Okay,
change the
can
shall
we-
to may in line 42. That's the last one.
All right, there's no what? Okay. We got everything teed up? Okay, let's take a look at the amendment then. I guess part of the question was, and I'm sorry, Member Bogus, I had an email come through on work garbage, but the question was whether to put side by side, or do you have what you were seeking in terms of?
I will be unable to make my amendments following this if I don't see it in context, because I won't know what I'm pointing to.
By in context, do you mean seeing a marked up version of the whole rule?
Yes.
'Cause I don't know if we've had that, have we? We usually don't have that ability. We've sort of had things in context with respect to the part that's being proposed for amendment.
Yeah,
then
and while I
I just don't know
understand
if we
that
have
and
that
respect that,
capacity.
we usually don't do business like this either.
Well, I'm not sure if we can. I certainly have zero opposition to it. I'm just not sure we have that capacity because we haven't done it. That's my point. Don't want to discourage it. Is that not something we can do? And we'll have to do with what we can. Deputy Norman?
Right. So we have a Google Doc that's up. Jennifer and I will be trying to make the changes while Elise has the other one up. I will send that live document to you so that you can have it up at the same time. And if you want us to toggle back and forth, Elise will toggle. So we're going to try.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for
I
scrambling.
really do appreciate you. Thank you.
So we have to vote on this anyway and then start with a fresh one. Because we can't do any more.
Well, that's true. Okay, so remember, Bogus, you're talking about the amendment you're going to make after this. Okay, so we can tee it up for that. All right. Whoa, where'd we go? Let's see.
Dr. Norman. I don't know if you want like 5 minutes. If you give us 5 minutes, we can update the whole thing probably between the three of us to what those changes were, and then we'll have it ready for the rest of you.
Well, yeah, let's take a vote on what's before us, and then,
Okay.
we can tee that up, and it might, I don't know. We've had a lot of breaks, so I don't know that we want to take a 5-minute break. We can spend those 5 minutes looking ahead in our packets. So, or discussing, yes. Okay, so I think we are ready for a vote if we have it back on the screen. Yes. Okay, we do have it up. I'm sorry. Okay, we've got the amendment on the board. It is Member Davis's amendment that the board, I'm going to use my dad voice, was never all that good. Yeah, let's gavel. All right, I think we're there. Okay, come on, folks. We can do this. The board take the language in line 50, identifying underperforming students in need of supports, and move to line 45, delete the rest of the lines 49 to 50 to read, fostering a learning environment and workplace that are safe and respectful of all students and educators, and identifying underperforming students in need of supports. And in line 46, replace Utah Professional Learning Standards to Utah Effective Educator Standards. And shall to may on line 42. So this again, to keep in context, I think was an amendment to Member Earl's motion, correct? Did we never vote on your motion to remove?
But it still
Jenny?
requires it. Was that?
We never voted on
No,
your motion
no.
to, okay, so this is an amendment to the underlying motion to remove this language. As an alternative to make these changes.
So I have a, can I ask a question? So it's just inserting this language? It's not inserting an LEA shall provide professional learning to educators concerning educational equity. The professional learning described in this section shall include instruction in? Are you asking for this to be professional development, or are you making just statements that these are things that we think?
Use your mic, Cindy. This is in the category that's changing from the shall to the may. There's required equity training. It may include some of these things. This is streamlining and cutting them down and fixing the problem with the Utah Effective Educator Standards that was not put in accurately in the beginning, and then changing them to shall to may. Streamlining it, cutting out a bunch of things, and fixing the educator problem and changing it to shall to may.
Okay, so and you can put it back in, my language struck 40 through 67. So you're not really, what you're doing is you're saying,
It's an amendment to your amendment.
I understand that, but are you putting back in lines 41, 42, 43? Do you see what I'm saying? That's not,
Yes, I am.
and where is that?
The only difference from yours,
Taken.
mine would instead only make the removals and changes that I indicated instead of all of them that you indicated.
That's not really what it says, though. So you want to
Well,
retain all the language in 40 to
I'm
67?
still taking out some of the stuff that Member Earl took out. I'm still delineating which one of
I
those
just am
I
trying
can-
to identify if you're leaving this in as professional development that needs to be done.
It may, not shall.
I understand that, but you're leaving the language in with, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, shall provide but may include. It just it cuts down, streamlines, and fixes the inaccurate problem. Thank you.
Are we voting? No, we can't.
Can we vote? What are we waiting for? Can we vote?
Just making sure we understand exactly what it is. So
Wow.
just to clarify, it leaves all the other 54 through 67 in, right? Okay.
Thank you for that quick.
Could you just send it to the whole?
I haven't.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought we were. I need. Let's see. Yeah. Do we have it? do we have it as it needs to be? This is Member Davis's, correct?
Still are leaving all that other, okay.
Okay. Any questions about what we got teed up? If not, okay. The motion is up. Can we vote?
Member Green and Member Real.
Okay. Voting is concluded. That motion fails. Vote of 8-7. Yeses being Member Wood, Member Reel, Member Lear, Members Straight, Davis, Booth, and Norton. Okay. Here we go. What's our lineup? I think you're it. You're it, sir.
Chair, I'd like to make a motion to reconsider our earlier motion to postpone.
Were you on the prevailing side?
I'm going to ask the parliamentarian for a ruling on that.
Oh, you don't make
Yeah, I just make a new one. I like doing it complicated, so can we do? I'd just like to do a motion to postpone.
Okay. Is that in order?
What do you
We
think?
have done things since the last.
No later than the January?
Well, it said to a special meeting. So I have a question because we have done things since that last motion. So would it not be setting up a new opportunity to postpone having done additional action? Yeah, we're postponing from where we are. So we haven't changed anything. We've done a lot of stuff, but we haven't passed anything. And so hence the motion, I assume, because all right, yeah, so parliamentarily we had an open date. It was for a special session. We have moved forward on items but have not passed anything. Does that change anything? My gut would say if you move to postpone at one point and then later on you have a different consideration about postponement because things have been discussed, that would create a new opportunity because I think a motion to postpone can be brought anytime. It's not quite the same as, and I'm, like I said, this is my gut, but what's the real rule here? If you tell me we can't, then we can't, or if we have to be more specific, I don't have my Robert's rules on postponement. Right, but what would it take to do that, I guess, is the question. Leadership would have to receive a request to set a date, and then we would set a date, and that would be, or we could just decide to do it. Okay. All right. Well, the motion to postpone has been made, and so I guess the question is, what would is that in order? And if it's a motion to postpone indefinitely, it's in order, up to the maker, Member Carey. There is a way to make the motion, and so up to you. You could move. Oh. AAG Buse or Beal, were you looking to speak? No? Okay.
Yeah, I'm just saying go with it because
Back to you, Member Carey.
wow, that was a lot of feedback. So I'd just like to make a motion to postpone that this matter be heard at our next regularly scheduled board meeting.
Okay, that would be in order. That will be next week.
No, regularly scheduled, meaning
Oh, I'm sorry. So not legislative.
monthly, yes,
but-
correct. I'm sorry, yes. I was trying to avoid that, yeah.
Okay. So is there a second? This would go to February then. Leaving in place until that point what is currently in 328, right? So that's the motion. We leave in place the existing 328 and postpone this till February. There's been a second discussion of that motion. Any discussion? Member Davis.
I'll be voting no only because we currently are not aligned with 427. All 5 principles in 427 are not in our current rule. So I would prefer to align it and then amend it on our next meeting. We can still bring it back to the next meeting and continue more amendments, but that's why.
Okay, any further discussion to the motion? Member Lear.
He said, I don't like 427, but it's the law. And if we have the opportunity now to make the rule consistent with that, I think we should do that.
Okay, Member Straight.
Yeah, I'm for the good faith work of doing what we can to align with 427. I think that's a primary objective. But I do fully accept that we can postpone after a vote. I'd prefer to postpone after the vote on the on draft 1.
Okay, yes, Member Carey.
So I must have entered the twilight zone because for the last 2 hours, I thought the argument was we have legal analysis saying that 427 and 328 are not in conflict. And now what I'm hearing is we can't leave 328 in place because 328 does not comply with 427. So to the extent that that is the argument being made, and I don't accept the argument that they're not in conflict, but that seems to have been the mantra for the past 2 hours, that there's no conflict, but now I'm hearing, well, let's bring these two into alignment. So I would say that we proceed with the motion to postpone.
Okay. Further discussion, we've got Member Davis and Member,
Oh, but she needs to follow up.
yes, Member Davis.
Our legal counsel has said it's not conflicting with it, but it doesn't have 2 pieces of it that need to be included. That's all.
Member Carey,
Document.
response?
I've seen the letter, and it seems like this letter is amorphous enough to include whatever seems to be needed at the time, but it's not in backup. It's not part of the official record, but that's the one we keep going back to.
Which letter are we referencing? I have had a couple questions. Okay, the email. Okay. Member Lear?
Just to be clear, Member Carey is somewhat right. I think I've been using shorthand. If others believe it's not in, it is the rule is in conflict, I'm willing to add all the pieces of 427 and try to placate those who believe it's not in conflict. So because it adds what's already in law anyway. Whether the rule has all 5 pieces doesn't mean that LEAs can ignore what's in 427. If the sponsors of the bill feel like it should be put in the rule also, I'm okay with that. So to be really clear, and I can see how that could sound contradictory, though I don't agree that it's absolutely necessary. I don't think it is. It doesn't bother me to put those pieces in so the sponsors feel better about it.
Okay, further discussion. Member Straight?
Yeah, I really agree with what's been said by everyone, except for, yeah, we might actually be in the twilight zone. That may actually be true as well. But anyway, I know in my comments, I was absolutely spoke from the very beginning about our efforts to bring in 427. yes, do we have the letter that says that it's not in direct conflict and we could move on? But you know what? I want to show good faith effort to the legislature. I don't want it said that we ignored it. Yeah, we have the analysis. Yeah, it has most of it, but yeah, we can improve.
Okay, thank you. I don't see any further lights, so the motion is to postpone to the next regularly scheduled monthly meeting, which is the February meeting. Our legislative meetings are scheduled, but those aren't our regular meetings. So it's a month out. All right, let us vote.
What are we postponing? The entire agenda or just this item? But that means that the old 328 stays.
Yes.
We can't have the old 328.
Then speak. You want to?
No, you see what happens when I speak. Chaos.
Voting is open.
I can't. We should. I don't know. Our data is straight.
Concluded, that motion passes 8-7. The no votes being Chair Moss, Member Lear, Member Straight, Member Davis, Member Booth, Member Hart, and Member Norton. So that is postponed to February, and we are back to, let's see. Yeah, that puts that off. I'm back to, we still had items, right? I'm trying to figure out where we're going. We're back in, we still have standards and assessment work. Okay.
8.6, R277-716, Alternative Language Services for Utah Students Amendment. The committee moves the board approve R277-716, Draft 2 on second and final reading.
No lights, no discussion? Okay, let's vote. Waiting, all right, there we go. Voting's concluded. That passes 14-1 with the no vote being Member Klein. Nope, we got
Now
more
we're
standards
going
and
on to the
assessment. We got the
9.
second part, yep.
9.2, we have the CTE standards. The committee moves that the board approve the following CTE courses: Community and Public Health, Commercial Photography 2, Commercial Photography 3, and Educational Instruction.
I have an amendment.
Member Vice Chair Earl.
I have amendment to Principles of Education Instructions under Strand 2. Is that up there? Do you have it?
Do you guys have the CTE motion that you can share?
Okay.
To see these, are we looking in 9.2 or back up in? They're all in there? Okay. Is this draft CPE, the last document, has everything? Okay.
Okay, my recommendation. Does it have any red on it so I can identify what the change? Okay, I'm just going to read it then. So strand 2, students will explain professional responsibilities of protecting student data when utilizing technology for instruction and learning. Standard 1, explain professional responsibilities of protecting student data and privacy under Family Education Rights and Privacy Act, FERPA. Personal identifiable information, PII, includes information that can be used to distinguish or trace a student's identity, either directly or indirectly, including but not limited to student number, name, age or birthday, email address, phone number, location data, like a physical address. Family Education Rights and Privacy Act, FERPA, is a federal law that addresses parent rights regarding their students' education records and defines the conditions under which schools may share education records with third parties. Education records are records, files, documents, or other materials that contain information directly related to a student and is maintained by the school. Confidentiality is limiting access to student education records to only authorized individuals, parents, guardians, teachers, counselors, administrators. And then standard 2, explore and research how federal law, Utah state law, and student data privacy requirements impact the use of technology tools for instruction and legal responsibilities within a local education agency. Utah Code 53E 9203 requires educators to get prior written consent from a student's guardian before asking students for personal or family information. And then it lists the areas: political affiliation or philosophies, mental or psychological problems, sexual behavior, orientation or attitudes, religious affiliations or beliefs, income, illegal, antisocial, self-incriminating or demeaning behavior, critical appraisals of individuals with whom the student or family member has has close family relationships, legally recognizing privilege and analogous relationships, lawyers, medical personnel, or ministers. How can educators ensure online content, classroom materials align with Utah Code 53E 9203? And then it's compare the student data privacy requirements between Federal Protection of Pupil Rights Amendment, PPRA, and Utah Code 53E 9203. Federal Protection of Pupil Rights Amendment, PPRA, does not require a time frame for guardian notification, requires consent for surveys connected to federal programs, and then Utah Code 53E 9203 requires a minimum of 2 weeks for guardian notification, requires notification and consent on all surveys, regardless of federal, state, local, school, or classroom programs. Utah Code 53E 9309 requires LEAs to ensure that there are specific provisions in place for education technology, third-party contractors, programs, apps, devices. Where does your LEA list approved technologies, metadata, dictionary, approved application list, learn platform? What is the process for approving new technology products in your LEA? Discuss what legal responsibilities are related with technology associated with third-party contractors. And then the Child Internet Protection Act, CIPA, requires LEAs and libraries to adopt and implement an internet safety policy that includes technology protection measures, block and filter internet access to inappropriate matter, monitor the online activities of minors, educate minors about appropriate online behavior, and then discuss how LEAs implementing internet safety policies aligned to CIPA, receive federal funding, and must follow government policies regarding use of CIPA funds. And then underneath there, students will research and present a current education issue regarding technology in the classroom and how it affects student data and privacy. And so there's components of what was already there, and then I asked Katie if she could work with me to put in those provisions of both federal and state. So there you have
Okay.
it. What's that?
We do need a second. Is there a second?
Yeah, yes. So it aligned with the code.
We have got a second. So Member Lear and Member Rio.
Unless she wants to speak.
correct. Sorry, thank you. Yes, Vice Chair Earl.
Just asked when in committee, we were trying to figure out how to put the federal stuff in there and the Utah stuff, and then just asked, worked with Katie and Ashley Higgs to incorporate those, but make it appropriate for the students in high school, but also that it was relevant to data privacy. So
Okay, Member Lear and Member Reel. Member Reel.
Thank you. This was one of our many conversations in our extra standards meetings last month, but I do have a question for Jennifer Thronson, or if Ashley's online, but maybe since you're here, you can answer. The way that I see these CTE courses is that these are high school level education courses set up in a way to start getting high school students thinking and learning the fundamental basics of teaching in order to hopefully encourage them to go to a higher ed institution and become educators, kind of through a pipeline, right? And this feels like, and I mentioned this in standards as well, but this feels like a lot of high level, more sophisticated education content that one might not be able to be even have enough time to cover in the course, but also is above what they should be learning in this course. So my question is this something that is actually taught at a higher level, and is this something that for the level of this course as a CTE course is appropriate at that age and at this point in that pipeline to becoming an educator? Thanks.
I assume that's rhetorical, correct?
No, it
Or-
was-
oh,
it was an actual
you do want it.
question.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
I
I
had a
didn't see a
question.
light. I
Yeah.
didn't hear noise in response, so here we go.
Okay, Director
Director
Thronson.
Johnson.
Thank you for the question. So in terms of whether teachers will get data and privacy when they go into their teaching educator preparation programs, that is part of the competencies in teacher prep. The intent of CTE for teachers, teaching as a profession, course 1, is to excite kids about the teaching profession and to invite them to want to be teachers. So in terms of, is this something, this is you as a board, is this what's going to get someone excited to be a teacher and want to go into the profession? That this is their very first course exploring this profession. The initial we did put an initial piece in. Has technology, and we do want, as our students are designing instruction, that they're thinking about privacy, but it was at a very foundational level, knowing the depth and capacity of understanding is going to come in an actual preparation program. The amendments would take it beyond that.
Thank you. Yeah, so I would speak against this amendment, and I spoke against a similar amendments that were proposed during our committee because I think this is far too much, far too detailed, and far too high level for this course.
Okay, Member Lear.
Oops, my question was similar. I just wondered, what age of student are we typically talking about in this type of a class? Typically. Jennifer needs to be turned on.
Thank you. In terms of the typical age, you're looking at 15 to 17 years old for this course.
So not seniors.
Well, most to
occasionally.
18, I guess, would be the appropriate.
So,
So
but
most,
as
because
young
there's
as-
a 3-course sequence, most students will start this more in that sophomore, junior year,
Oh.
as there's 3 teaching as a profession courses.
Thanks, helpful.
Member Klein.
So when I made the motion in committee, I just asked that they identify the different laws. So they didn't have to learn them all, but they should be familiar with the terms, SIPA and PPRA and FERPA, and know that they exist and that it's in state code, it's in federal code. The idea was not that they have to become experts at it, but this is the level 2 education instruction class. This is the highest level education instruction class. And so in the CTE courses, this is the higher level one. And so if they go to college and they haven't even heard of these codes or these laws around data privacy, when that's what the section is on, then I think we've failed them.
Yeah, Vice Chair Earl.
Oh, you've got, sorry, Davis.
Sorry, Chair, but
I think they should absolutely learn all these laws, but they should learn them when they have the capacity to start implementing them with fidelity when they're starting to have field experiences, and that's more at university level than high school level.
can we see any of the motion up there? I don't. complete- That's yours in the middle, Vice Chair Earl? I don't see any colored parts. Am I missing something?
up, you can see Jenny's colored part.
There we go. Okay. Yeah, I'm just trying to let us look at what we're debating.
So keep in mind,
FERPA
most
is a
of that's
federal
already
law.
there. We're just adding
The colored parts being added?
the colored, yes, the colored part actually is the same definition. The colored part is the same definition as the rest of FERPA and that we've used in other parts of the document that we've already approved. So it's just a matter of putting it there. So scan down a little bit more. Yeah. Which it was in, keep in mind, it was in there. This is just a,
Sure. Are you? Yeah, she's next up, right? Yes, Member Lear.
I wondered two things. First of all, how long, when did you post this, Jenny, or is this just a new?
Well, we met last week, so.
Was this the same when?
I thought it was, I thought it was attached because I did ask for it. So I apologize if it was not because on Monday I did ask that we get it updated, but I don't know if it got posted. So I do apologize for that. I did have this ahead of time.
And I, as I was listening online, I was not, I thought there were some, important inaccuracies
We
about-
fixed that.
about the,
The 53 E9203.
there was protection for family information.
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
That was a concern.
I had Katie
But
check that
my-
and that's what I moved.
But my more important point, my more general point is that I don't think we, and this maybe would be a good move for teachers to give them a little more control over the amount of time they have for these areas of instruction, that we could just cite the code and not list all of this out. So that we're very exact and consistent with what the code says, and we don't misstate any word at all if it's a may or a shall, and then allow the teachers to decide if they want to have greater detail or if they only have time for less detail.
You could do that. The code itself, I guess you could do that, but the code itself has quite a bit more to it. This isn't just that whole section of that code. So if you want to list out the whole, sure. I just think that's probably too much.
No, I just want to
Okay.
list, I just want to cite the code. I don't want to list all this
But
stuff.
that's what I'm saying is the code itself has quite a bit more to it. It's not, it's
So
more
then just-
dynamic than just this.
Well, you've also got federal regulations that you haven't even listed. And they have some information in them that are not
We can vote or not vote.
specific to the state law, that are not always included in the state law provisions. So I think it would be better for teachers and give them more flexibility if they could go to the sections of the code and not think that they're expected to just teach exactly this.
Okay, Member Earl, Vice Chair Earl.
Yeah, I'm not, you guys can vote for it or not. I think it's key that if we're talking data privacy, we hit the key pieces of federal and the key pieces of state legislation, especially if this particular class focuses a lot on technology. I think it's just a key provision.
Okay, we're going to go to one comment by each board member on each motion. Member Bogus.
Yes, sir. First of all, I wanted to just thank Member Earl for the amendments. I really do appreciate it. And I would offer, just in speaking to the motion, that not only are students learning about what they need to be accountable for as educators moving into the system, we also need to understand that in doing so, they learn about their own rights as students. And so this is a win-win, like win times two. It is something that they learn about their own rights as students. They learn about the constraints put upon the system to honor their privacy and their family. And I would just thank Member Earl for the motion and speak in favor of the amendments.
Okay. Seeing no further lights, let us vote, and we'll get, there we go. I was going to say, we'll hold for Member Earl, Vice Chair Earl. Vice Chair Hart, we're voting on, okay. One more. All right, voting's concluded. That motion fails 8-7. Yes votes being Member Carey, Member Moss, Member Green, Member Bogus, Member Hart, Vice Chair Hart, Earl, and Klein. Okay. Nope. Right. Floor is open. Seeing no lights, I think the underlying motion was to approve the following CTE courses: Community Public Health, Commercial Photography 2, Commercial Photography 3, and Educational Instruction. Please vote. Yes, I'm sorry. Back to. Oh, no, we're still. Yeah, we got it. Passes 11-4. The noes being Carey, Green, Bogus, and Member Klein. Is that the end? I've standards. Chair Booth. Sure here. All right. Thank you very much. And we are on to. I think we've had discussion about postponing a couple items. Help me out here. Full day kindergarten update. We have moved that to when? Tomorrow? Okay. It's not going to tomorrow. We'll put that back on the agenda item for probably February then. On to general session legislation preparation. Let me just ask here. We have also noticed that for tomorrow. Would it be better to put that item for tomorrow and take care of those things that are not noticed for tomorrow? Deputy Jones, I don't think, well, did we notice a carryover tomorrow for any leftover items?
No, we should have.
We did not. Okay, so we noticed for tomorrow,
We did notice?
we noticed some things.
But I think it was
Scott, Deputy Superintendent Jones. I guess let me just get this procedural parliamentary question answered first. So, what can or can't we carry over to tomorrow? We noticed that. Right.
From my understanding, Chair Moss, we could carry over the legislative preparation item to tomorrow because we do have that on our study session agenda noticed as an action item.
Okay.
So we could take action on that tomorrow. But the rest of today's board meeting agenda either needs to be finished tonight, postponed to your legislative meeting, postponed to February, or postponed to a special meeting that you can decide at a later date.
Okay. So legislation, we have noticed for tomorrow a review of the process, which is an information and guidance item from our staff, and I think leadership might weigh in. And then we also noticed up as action items in the event that we ran over both funding and policy proposals. We don't have any policy proposals in the hopper. There's the possibility if we want to talk about funding. So we can bump that one over. Any objection to that of bumping over the legislative section so we can get to those things that we have to? Yeah, I'm looking at Deputy Jones. Anybody else?
No,
Any?
Chair, if I may, just to clarify, that would be the agenda item number 11.
Yeah.
11.11 and 11.12, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay, yeah, so that would be that crosswalk comparison with the governor's budget secretary. Yeah, no problem.
Right, okay. All right, so we'll postpone that till tomorrow, item number 11. Do we need a vote for that, or is that something we can just, it hasn't come to the floor, so yeah, without objection. Okay. All right, so then we have item number, I'm sorry, yeah. Oh, were you going to speak to that?
Are we voting on this? It says motion. I think there just need to be clarification where it says motion.
Reviews the.
No official motion was taken, but I just want to make sure I think member Klein's trying to make sure that's clear.
Yeah, I don't think we need a motion to carry it over to tomorrow when it was noticed and it's carryover. I'm sorry, what's the question?
I would just like to make a motion to postpone the remaining action items
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you
to
were
a
just asking a
special
question.
session to be determined by board leadership.
Okay, so we postponed this one. We've already put the legislative matters over. So the legislation will take place tomorrow because that's the intro to the session. So the motion is from items 12.
We need to probably do consent though, because it probably has been.
Well, let's ask. Let me just tell people the motion that's on, then we can debate it. So items 12, which is reports and requirements, task force recommendations. 13, the budget report. 14, math standard. Didn't we bump math standards?
We'll have to have a special meeting.
Okay, we pulled that off for a special session, so 14 is off. Consent, and then we have chairs, board member comments, and executive UPAC. So let me just, with that motion teed up, I want to ask staff about it, but do we have a second for that motion? Sorry, Member Bogus seconded. So let me ask staff, are there items on consent? And so this would be a special session. So that does not include one of our legislative meetings. This would be a separate meeting. Is that the intent? Okay. Because we had 2 options and now we've got 3. We got a regular meeting, a legislative meeting, and a special session. So the intent of the motion is for a special session. Yeah, I guess we'll. Well, the UPAC stuff, we have appointments, we have UPAC. I mean, the UPAC stuff, we can ask Ben. We can ask Ben about that or not. Let's see. I don't think we have Ben. Yeah, I guess if we could, Ben, Director Rasmussen, we've got a motion to postpone the remaining items. So we're just asking our key staff members on each of those whether they're time-sensitive matters that would be, in trouble if we postpone. And I hate to do this, people have been waiting, but, I understand the motion. So let's find out.
People waiting on clerks on UPAC. I mean, it just depends on how quick you're going to do the special meeting.
Yes, Member Davis.
We have another meeting at noon. Could we do it, come here and do it between, or get a room at the Capitol? I guess we have to do it.
This is on which date? The
We're
18th?
already gonna be up here. We've already taken work off. Can we do it on that day so we don't have to take another work day off?
Chair,
Matt would second that. He
for
said.
your
Yes.
for yours and the
Jones.
board's consideration, PEA, the first 2 meetings for PEA is on Wednesday, the 17th, and Friday, the 19th. Agenda items are to the related to basic programs, which is one of the items here. We're not suggesting you make any motions after you've had a chance to review it. We just left it as an action item in case you wanted to make any adjustments after you saw the impacts of each one of the 9 programs, if it would put into the WPU too. My concern is we're okay if we do it a week, but the other piece to this is we have the small rural district approvals. And we know that we're going to be asked by the PEA, or we have been asked by PEA to present both years. Last year was the first year and this was the first year, and that could be that first week. So we would need to meet hopefully before Wednesday, or if not, Wednesday at the latest next week, to ensure that we're in line with what we anticipate will be the PEA agendas.
Okay, so if we postpone, we need to do it on that item or those items by Monday or Tuesday, the 15th or 16th?
Right, Monday's a holiday, sir, but
Oh, right.
yeah, I don't have a life, so I can work on Monday. So that's cool. So
I forgot why I was looking for a.
no, you're good, sir.
I was looking at
No,
a blank schedule.
You're great. It's just that it is a state holiday.
I'd like to make an amendment to the motion.
Yes, Member Earl.
Yes, I would like to pull the consent calendar and do it tonight and those items that are listed there so that those are done. We don't have to try to think of a way to squeeze it in next week. Because that's where those are sitting, right? Yep.
Seconded. So the underlying motion was for items 12 through the end, and the motion to amend is to retain for tonight item 15, which is the general consent calendar. Any discussion on that motion? Member Booth or Bogus? I see a light there, but okay. Any discussion on that motion? If not, we can vote. Motion is to remove from or I guess it's to amend the motion to postpone, to exclude from postponing item 15, the general consent calendar. All right, we've got 8 up there, 7 left. Oh, geez. Member Carey, are you on the premises? All right, that passes 14-0. So what we have remaining then is a motion to postpone to a special session, items 12 and 14. No, excuse me. 12 to 14 and 16 through 19. Any further discussion to that motion? I guess, did we get an answer on executive session? Or excuse me, UPAC. Wait, is that what you pulled? I thought you pulled consent. Am I getting that off? Sorry? Okay, I didn't hear the final word there. It's okay to postpone or no? Okay, that's right. I'm sorry, folks. Yeah, I should turn this over to you. I'm not. I am.
No, they do not want to. Just do it.
I'm good with that. I don't know what others are, but okay. So, is there a motion to pull consent or executive? We pulled consent. Is there a motion to pull executive?
I move we pull executive.
Second. Any discussion on the motion? If not, let's vote. So this would leave for tonight consent and executive if the motion passes. It's to pull it from the motion to postpone. Correct. Sorry. Yeah, I know.
Pull it out of the motion to postpone.
Yep. Right. So we have already decided to do consent tonight. This would mean we do executive as well. So.
You better be careful. Give him cold punch. No. Vote. Carry, real, clear,
We got 9 in. Anybody else feel like voting? Do it now or forever hold your peace. All right, that passes by a vote of 9-2. The noes being members Green and Bogus. And the yays, yes. So the yays on that, since we didn't have everybody here, the yays are Moss, Wood, Reel, Davis, Booth, Hymus, Hart, Earl, and Klein. Okay, so the motion then before us is to postpone everything except consent and executive session. Any further discussion to that motion? Member Lear, I see your light, I think.
I wanted to speak to the last issue. I don't think it's fair to teachers to do it when we're this tired and this done with the day. So I'm concerned about the executive session that relates to UPAC. But
Okay,
that was my old comment. The vote is over. I didn't vote, so my
Okay.
hands are clean.
All right.
If I'm questioning anything, I would.
Yep. Okay, so the motion then is to postpone everything else to a special session for a date to be set by leadership. Any discussion on that motion? If not, please vote. Okay, we've got 11 members in. Anybody else interested in voting? We've got 12 in. It's so far unanimous. Okay, we will take what we can get here. Voting is concluded. That passes 13-0. All right. Do we have to record who didn't vote, or is that?
Carrie being absent. Just say Carrie being absent.
We got 2 that didn't vote, though. Real and Carrie?
I think there was 9-2, so there's.
Well, this one's is 13-0. So Davis
Oh.
and Carrie did not vote. Okay. Passes 13-0 without members Davis and Carrie.